here at Return to Monkey Island. It's been a while since it's been news, but Venture Beat did a interview with Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman, the main designers on the project, on May 19th, I believe. Yep, May 19th, 2022. So we're going to take a look, kind of go over highlights, and I'll do my commentary as I've been doing. Can't wait for this game to come out. We do not have a release date yet. That being said, let's go. It says here at the beginning, Return to Monkey Island's release is later this year, which, okay. So this first question, is it relatively easy to jump back in the franchise? Did you replay the older games before working on Return to Monkey Island? Gilbert says, I played Monkey Island 1 and 2 as we started to look at the new design. Looking at the old game can be frustrating because there are so many little things I wish I could change. Adventure game design was a lot more forgiving back then. Beating your head against obscure puzzles was acceptable. It's not anymore. That's a really interesting point there. Games were harder. I mean, operating systems were harder in general, right? Using DOS is harder than using Windows or Mac OS or something, right? The command line stuff. Everything, even getting sound cards and stuff to work, it was a bit more of a struggle back then. And I don't miss all the time I wasted as a kid having to configure stuff to get my games working, to say nothing of the crazy difficulty of the puzzles of the games. So there you go. And then Grossman says, it's easier to return to something that's your own than to start work on something originally created by someone else, but I needed to do the research to get my brain in the right place. By coincidence, I was already playing through the old Monkey Island games with my son, who is 5 and just finished all the Humongous titles. The Humongous titles are the educational games Ron Gilbert did that were sort of simpler adventure games like Freddy Fish and that sort of stuff. During production, I continued to revisit them because I wanted to remember the tone and cadence of returning characters. So it talks about this about recurring elements that fans expect to see, like Stan or Monkey Island as a location. And Ron Gilbert says, we revisited some locations and characters, but you have to be careful. It's more than just a trip down nostalgia lane. The game is not a remake or a remaster. It's a whole new game. We revisited locations and characters when it was important to the story. This thing Grossman says I think is a bit more revealing. Yes, it's a nice head start to have a character who's been developed a bit, which can help guide decisions about what they should do or say, but it creates limitations. Someone written in support of a particular theme 30 years ago might not have much to say about what's going on in the current game. So what I'm reading into that is not all the old characters are coming back, but some will, and if they will, it'll have a point to the story. This last sentence I think is pretty telling. If I try to list my favorite characters from Return to Monkey Island, in terms of both the end result and the joy I had working with them, it's a mix of the new ones and returning ones. What are some of the starkest differences between working on a new Monkey Island today compared to the development of the original? Ron Gilbert is talking about, there's nostalgia. Back then it was a game, now it's like this whole legacy. So they have to be careful to honor that, but be not afraid to move it forward. We were young and naive, everything was bright and shiny. Meaning, they were kids. They were in their 20s, right? Possibly 30s when working on the first few Monkey Island games. So with that in mind, as you get older, you can get more cynical. Ron Gilbert has kind of a snarky sense of humor anyway, and can get a bit cynical himself. I wonder if parts of the plot will be darker. I think that would be kind of welcome. Not that it would be a serious Monkey Island with characters dying for goods and heads getting ripped off and Mortal Kombat violence and stuff like that. Or could I even say monkey combat violence? But it is one of these things where I think there's a lot of potential there. So we'll just have to see what happens. Grossman says, we've developed the whole game during a global pandemic. That's been significant. There's been one face-to-face in January 2020. It's all been remote since then. They even have to schedule time working remotely, hanging out by the water cooler, because it's important to relate to each other as people if you're going to make stuff together. And that is important. Not all remote companies do that. Some do. Even having the virtual happy hour thing, where, of course, drinking alcohol is optional, I think can help kind of make things a bit more friendly between teams when otherwise they might be more combative or hostile in a remote environment. Ron Gilbert also mentions this last bit about arcade games they used to play in the office at Lucasfilm Games, later LucasArts, I think is telling. On the other hand, the team is older, more experienced now. We waste less time playing Tempest and Millipede. Ron Gilbert, Marble Madness for me. I almost got fired over that game. Marble Madness is a real hard game where you're a marble going through a maze, and in the arcade you control it with like a wheel, right? You're rolling it with your hands. Ah, and the versions for Nintendo where you just use a normal controller, it's not quite the same. You don't get that fine tune stuff going on. These influences of Secret of Monkey Island's writing, they've been asked this questions a million times. As far as influences, David Grossman is interesting right here. It says P.G. Wodehouse, a British satirist. Douglas Adams, author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Ron Gilbert just mentions he just likes parody, and Monkey Island is about making fun of stuff. So it's kind of a simpler answer. I just think he's kind of tired of answering that question where you mentioned the influences of the things like Pirates of the Caribbean and the novel On Stranger Tides and so forth. This, I think, is a good question here. Does the advent of the internet and easy access to guides change the way you develop puzzles? And Grossman says, mainly it motivates us to embed a hint guide in the game itself. So if the player wants to get a hint, they don't have to risk the muscle strain that could be caused by taking the smartphone out of their pocket. Yeah, or even, with the monitors with the big enough resolution now, you could have like a GamesFAQ walkthrough on one side of the screen and the game on the other side of the screen. Ron Gilbert says, I try to ignore that. If people want to walk through spoilers, there's no way to prevent it. As Dave says, the hint guide is the main place to combat that. I feel if the player leaves the game to look something up, we've lost. Giving them a built-in hint system helps. They stay in the game. And that's right. You want to maintain the experience of being in the game, the world of the game, the milieu. And I would imagine the in-game hint system will have humor and jokes and probably different levels of hints that it gives, maybe with something kind of like a hint as opposed to the outright answer right away. Phantasmagoria from Sierra, I think their first full motion video game had that. This is a question that comes up a lot, and it's good. Are puzzles from the original games you regret making too difficult or too easy? And they all settle on the same one, right? The Monkey Wrench puzzle from Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. Grossman says, notoriously unsolvable, not a good design on several levels. Even if you're an English speaker from a location where the tool in question is commonly called a monkey wrench, and you realize that's what you need, you still have to make an astonishing predictive leap about how your actions will create that tool. Nothing in the game sets it up adequately. Conversely, I can't think of anything I regret making too easy. The consequences are much less severe for that. It doesn't bring the game to a grinding halt. At worst, it's just not very interesting. So, yeah, the puzzle should make you think, but not be too illogical. The ideal puzzle, when you get the solution, it's like, aha. On the other hand, gamers are not mind readers, and designing puzzles is very, very difficult, especially to how it ties into the story. And that leads into this next question. Do the puzzles exist to service the story, or does the story exist to service the puzzles? Gilbert, I've always looked at it as puzzles serves the story. Story comes first, and the puzzles are layered in. Absolutely right. And they also should mesh together, right? Or a puzzle, for instance, you wouldn't have a puzzle about a cell phone or something in a Monkey Island game. That's not a very good example, but it should fit in with the theme and the setting and the world of the game that you're doing. Kind of doing highlights here. Do you feel obligated to tie... This is good. Okay, so this is about lore in the game, right? Do you feel obligated to tie up loose ends or connect threads from previous games? Or are you more interested in creating something new that can stand on its own? Ron Gilbert, I feel no desire to tie up loose ends unless it serves the new story. It can be more fun to have them dangling out there. Yeah, we know that from the ending of Monkey Island 2, which people are still talking about 25 plus years later. Let someone else tie them up in a future game. Why should we have all the fun? So I wonder what loose ends will feed into this story. And I wonder if we'll get an answer to what is the secret of Monkey Island. I'd rather they just leave that open and never answer it. From Dave Grossman, a good page-turner novel is constantly tying up loose ends and creating new ones. Like the tension and release in a musical score, there's a curiosity dynamic at work that makes them very satisfying. I don't feel any particular obligation to follow that, but it's certainly something I think about. This last question is kind of boilerplate. Monkey Island inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean. Now Disney is directly involved with the Monkey Island franchise because Disney owns LucasArts. Or is it Lucasfilm Games now? I don't remember. Whatever it is, right? Does that open up any interesting possibilities? Can you maintain creative freedom? Ron Gilbert. Monkey Island was inspired by the Pirates of the Caribbean ride from my youth. It also was heavily inspired by the book On Stranger Tides. They were both inspirations, but are very much different things. Uh, this is an interesting last bit from Dave Grossman. If anyone is planning on redesigning the theme park ride, they haven't told me about it, but I think I'd be delighted to see it. I mean, what about that? Wow. What if they had, even for like a month as a promotion, redesigned the Pirates of the Caribbean ride with Monkey Island themed stuff? Like, I don't think you could make whole Monkey Island themed animatronics. It takes years to develop those, the robotics and the design, but that'd be really something. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. In fact, I am going to be in Orlando for a family thing in August, but I'm not going to be able to go to Disney, unfortunately. I have not been to a Disney theme park. Oh, the only Disney theme park I've been to is Disney World, and last time I did that was like in 1989. So they've changed a lot since then. My wife has been to Disneyland a few times in California, and she says the Star Wars stuff is pretty cool. So hopefully I'll get to see that stuff before too long, and if I do, I'll definitely do the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Yeah, so I mean, that's all with Return to Monkey Island. The news here isn't very much. I hope to do more streaming of Secret to Monkey Island like I did about a week ago and kind of work through those older games and all of that. I'm at Bradley-Tschirgi. Check me out on YouTube and on Twitch at twitch.tv/matwbt. And catch you later. Be sure to hang on to your banana. Bye.